My name is Dr. Marlin McKay. I'm a general practitioner in private practice, and I'm based in the suburb of Florida, which is part of Roodepoort, here on the west end of Johannesburg. So the reopening of the economy, which is happening or stepping down to level 3, coming in on the 1st of June, which is a few days away, for me is a bit of a controversial thing, and absolutely from an economical point of view, the economy of the country and people's livelihood, it's important that we kickstart the economy. The issue is can it be at the expense of the health of the population of South Africa? And that's where I have some sort of trepidation, as it were. Maybe if I can start with churches, for instance. Should churches be allowed to start, albeit with 50 people? My personal point of view, I think it's a little too early. We still have to reach the peak of the pandemic, and so it's going to be a problem having people in church. We're also seeing that a lot of the spread or transmission of COVID-19 is amongst what we call silent spreaders or asymptomatic people. In other words, people they have COVID-19, they don't know they have it, and they are spreading the illness silently because they have no symptoms. So now what happens if someone like that comes to church? Yes, social distancing must be intact, masks must be worn, temperatures must be taken. That's of no relevance because the person won't have a temperature anyway. And so there's a risk of someone like that bringing the disease into the church. There's a risk of catching it there and then taking it home where families have been safe. So my personal point of view, just from a very, very simplistic point of view, is that it's too early to open churches. It's going to be very, very difficult to regulate. Christians by nature, or any place of worship, is a place of warmth and contact, and now you bring people out of isolation. Who loves church the most? The elderly, and they already have comorbid conditions, and we're bringing them out and prematurely, and we're putting them at risk, and I think we're going to get into a bit of trouble with churches. And my message is for pastors and ministers to try as much as possible to reach their congregation through online streaming and other methods. And we should just wait a while until it's a little safer to get people to come to church. So now it's going to sound like a bit of a contradiction, because school is slightly different for me. At the current time, we have kids who are at home. Kids who come from sort of better off or well-off homes are getting fat because they're eating too much and not getting exercise. Kids that come from poorer socioeconomic conditions are getting thin and malnourished because they were dependent on schools for the feeding system. So that alone is a very good reason for me to think that we need to get back to schools. The other issue is that we know, scientifically, up to now, we know kids do get the illness. We all get it. But kids have a much milder form of the disease. Many of them are even asymptomatic. And looking at some of the data from South Africa, there are very few kids who have died and very few kids who have, even one death is too many, believe me. But if you look at the bigger scheme of things, the death rate is probably only 0.4%, and very few kids are currently even in ICU with COVID-19. So, and kids don't bring the disease home, as it were, to adults. So it's a much safer environment in terms of illness for kids. So why would we want to keep them at home when the disease poses no serious risk to them, to their health, and even to the health of family members? So as opposed to churches, I firmly believe that kids need to get back to school. Now, coming to the issue of comorbid conditions with children, yes, even with things like, and asthma is probably one of the most common things in children, a good, well-controlled asthmatic is fine to go to school. We are more worried about those whose asthma is not under control, who land up in hospital with bad asthma attacks, who have recurrent asthma attacks. So under those conditions, I'd probably say maybe safe at home. But by and large, for schools, and obviously this is with the proviso that the schools have made all the arrangements for social distancing, for sanitization. If those things are in place, now the rural schools, I don't know. But by and large, as a matter of principle, my stand is that it's time to get our kids back to school. I think maybe just very quickly, those who are under level 3 and now being required to come back to work, and you may be concerned that you have a comorbid condition, And many companies are now asking their employees to fill out these forms. Should you work remotely or are you fit? And they're asking me as a doctor, what do you say? So just remember, if you are, the conditions state that if your blood pressure must be well controlled. If it's well controlled, you're fine to go to work. Your asthma, if it's well controlled, you're fine to go to work. If you suffer with HIV and you're HIV positive, you are on treatment, you're taking your treatment and your viral load is suppressed and your CD4 count is way above 200, you're fit to go to work. If you're an asthmatic and you've never had an asthma attack in years, you're fit to go to work. But if you're concerned about the risk, and the conditions obviously is that your employer has provided all the restrictions and abided by and complied with all the regulations, it's safe to go to work. Okay, but if there's any doubt, rather see your doctor, be assessed, and let your doctor decide for you. But generally, we want you to get back into our normal routine. If you feel unsafe, stay at home, protect yourself and your family, and let's ride this wave and see how well we can do, and hopefully we'll come out okay at the end of all this. My name is Dr. Marlin McKay. I'm a general practitioner in private practice, and I'm based in the suburb of Florida, which is part of Roodepoort, here on the west rand of Johannesburg.